Hey everyone, this is Elias from RevMatch Media, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2021 RAV4 Prime XSE all-wheel drive. Now, there's a lot of things that have the Prime name in them. Amazon Prime, Optimus Prime, Prime Rib, all great things that have the name Prime. And this RAV4 is no exception. Let's get started. We get started in the front and we have this pretty aggressive looking front end on this RAV4. We get started with the headlights and they are LEDs. They really illuminate the road, so it's really nice clean design. I love just kind of this like aggressive look to them. And we have, with the Prime, we have these vertical LED lights as well. Nice little touch with a lot of black accents on this, which you guys know I'm a huge sucker for red and black combination. So this really checks off a great box for me. And again, that Supersonic Red that this has on it is incredible. It really looks good. And of course, we have the Toyota logo. And whenever you have a little blue kind of outline to it, it's funny because it almost looks like it's a peel off that, you know, that someone kind of left from the factory. But this indicates that there is a battery in this. There is, whether it's a hybrid system or a plug-in, or it's full electric, that's the indicator that Toyota tells you there's some batteries in this. But we come down here and again, we have this nice black grille. We have some parking sensors, which is great. Nice when you're trying to make sure you don't hit anything with this, or, you know, yeah, you don't want to mess this up. And we have the front facing camera. This does have a 360 view on it. It's great as far as, like, you know, the screen is great, but for some reason the resolution is incredibly bad. It looks like 90s webcam. It's not there, so not sure what's going on. Not sure if it's the camera. I don't think it's the screen, because the screen is actually pretty clear. But yeah, this front guy here is lacking, as well as the ones on the mirrors. But overall, it's a really aggressive looking front end, and we do have a good amount of clearance for when you're wanting to take this off-road. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's under the hood and see what we have there. We get under the hood and we have the 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engine. And next to that, we have the hybrid system. Now, when you combine those two, we're looking at 302 horsepower. That's pretty crazy on a CUV or SUV like this. Those are sports car numbers. That's really crazy. And you feel it in this. You feel the power, but you don't feel what's going on between these two guys. They have a great relationship together. They know when to turn off, when to turn on, and they're not intrusive to each other, which makes this a great system. Unbelievable. Toyota, you guys have nailed, you know, switching back from the gas engine to the electric power. It's so smooth, it's seamless. You really cannot tell when it's switching from one or the other. Yeah, it's been really great. And you know, when we're talking about mileage, we're looking at about 38 miles to the gallon. When it's the gas combined, when we're dealing with both of them, we're looking at 94 mpge. Real world, I unfortunately wasn't able to really get a real world number, so to speak, because when we were driving it, we didn't realize the modes, which we'll get into, as far as how to recharge the battery in the optimal way. But we got about 35 miles to the gallon, and we actually gained more when we were doing city driving, which is insane. Now, the majority of our drive was a highway drive, about 300 miles. So highway is not where this is going to excel, because it's having to use the gas engine for that. City streets, yes, we actually gained miles to the gallon because of the hybrid system, because of the electric system in this. It's been unbelievable. I love it. It's been awesome. Well, let's take a look at the wheels and tires and see what we have there. We come down here to the wheel and tire package, and we have the 19-inch wheel wrapped in the Yokohama 235s 55s. With this, the road noise have been virtually nothing. The wheels, it's nice to see that when you have a hybrid version or a plug-in hybrid version, that, or anything electrified, we have a nice big wheel. That's probably one of the things that car manufacturers have really kind of messed up, in that sense of making a hybrid attractive, or an electrified vehicle attractive. A lot of times we get smaller wheels for maybe efficiency, but it just doesn't look good. You know, the whole thing is we're trying to get to that movement. Let's look good doing it. And again, it's a nice design, nice 5-spoke design on this. And yeah, the grip was a little more is needed, because it definitely will break the front wheels loose and then transfer the power back to the rear wheels. So just be aware of that. There is a little bit of a torque steer, and it's just because the power under there it's pretty fast and instant. Yeah, on a RAV4. A couple of things as well is, for some reason, these shocks, these struts are red. I'm not sure if it's to match the car, or if it's a Prime, or if it's a RAV4. I believe the RAV4 TRD had them as well, so not sure if that's the case. But yeah, it's kind of boy racer a little bit. The brakes on this are a little bit not there, and I don't know if, I guess in the normal RAV4 or even in the TRD, we didn't have an issue with the brakes, but because this goes so fast and you're needing to brake a lot better, so the performance of the brakes don't really match up with the performance of the engine. So just be aware that if you're heavy-footed, be aware that when your foot is heavy, you're going to be going significantly faster in this than you would in a normal RAV4. So just be ready to brake a lot faster, a lot earlier, and a lot harder. But yeah, overall, this was a great combination. So let's go ahead and take a look on the side and see what we have there. We get to the side and we can see this is a fairly like husky looking SUV. Yes, it's a compact SUV. Yes, CUV, whatever you want to call it, but it's an SUV overall. But what makes that kind of like aggressive looking, it's kind of like a little bulldog, or you know, a fairly big bulldog. Yeah, I would say this is like a bulldog. And we have, again, these fenders up front here. We have this kind of line. Typically, you know, we see a smooth line here. This line really gives it that kind of stance of, you know, aggression, so to speak. And we have these fender covers over here, and they're black. I like it. It's a nice little accent. It breaks up the lines of just having, again, just a solid color there. And the wheels, again, like I said, nice to have a bigger wheel as opposed to smaller ones when you get a typical hybrid version of a vehicle. We have the plug-in hybrid logo there, which again indicates that you can plug this guy in. And we have those roof rails up there, ready for any adventure you may want to take this on. Well, let's take a look and see how this car unlocks. So I have my key in the pocket, and as soon as I put my hand on the handle, it unlocks so I can open it up. Thank you, Toyota. That's what we want keyless entry to be. So just a matter of closing it. And what's great about this is we have kind of that little button on every door handle, which is nice as parents in case you're getting your kid out, they're wanting to just go, and you're not having to fumble around looking for the keys to lock it. Just a matter of swiping your finger over the door handle and you're locked. Typically when we do the side views, we're on the driver's side, but for this one, we're gonna add the passenger side. And the reason why is because when you press this big opening here on the side, this is where you can plug this guy in to your outlet in your house or to a charger at a charging station, and you know, juice up that battery. Well, let's go ahead and head to the back and see what we have there. We get to the back and we can see this is a nice design. I love the shape and the colors and really the almost textures of this. So a couple of things I love are the taillights. We do have this, this is one thing I've always loved, when the taillights kind of pop out a little bit more from the body of a car. It kind of gives it that aggressive look to it. So this does it, and it looks good doing so. We have the RAV4 Prime badge here, indicates, yeah, this is, yeah, it's Prime. So we also have the nice little Toyota badge with the blue on it as well. We do have a rear windshield wiper, or a rear window wiper, because you're gonna wanna get this clean. It does collect a little bit of dust, of dirt there when it's raining. And yeah, nice little design in the back overall. Now we get to the exhaust, and yes, these are actually, the tips are actually on the exhaust itself. So you do see it is the polished lip on the actual tubing of the end of the exhaust, but I will give that a pass, as that is an actual exhaust tip, not like a cover or a plastic or anything. No, what you see is what you're getting, which is a nice little touch. Now comes to my favorite part, and that is the key fob. So the key fob has a couple of buttons. Obviously we can lock, unlock, and we can hold the button to open up the trunk area. And when that opens up, we have a lot of space back here. A nice little Toyota logo down here, but we have a lot of space, which I really, really love about this little CUV or SUV, whatever you want to call it. But it's spacious. It's a small vehicle, but it's got a lot of space. It's very well ergonomically designed to show, and you have a lot of space in the back. Now, and we do have a nice little cover if you don't want any of your things to be seen, which is nice, always a nice little touch for security or privacy there. But overall, with the fact that this is, again, nice big opening and no obstructions from that shade, you're able to really get this full. So let's go ahead, and if we hold it down, we are able to see that it does come down. And then the other button on this, let me go ahead and lock it. The other button in this is the hold AC button. So when I hold it, you'll see the light flash, and that is going to start the AC unit. The problem with that is I don't hear anything. I didn't hear a beep. I've tried looking everywhere in the manual on how to do this, in the menu on how to have it to beep. I may be missing a page or something, or may be overlooking it, but YouTube, help me out. If you guys have a RAV4 and know how to do the beep, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to know, because that would be useful. That way I know I hold it, and because this is a hybrid, you're barely gonna hear anything, but I can barely hear it, but I hear the fan running a little bit. So that's essentially your start, your start, stop, your remote start, sorry. But yeah, it's nice that it's on the remote. I don't have to pay a subscription. I don't have to pay anything. It's right on there, and it's good to go. Well, let's go ahead and hop in and go for a ride. We get inside the RAV4 Prime, and it's pretty nice. Overall, it's a nice interior. Let's get started with the door. The doors are great, very comfortable, where you can really rest your arm. And one of my favorite things about this is the door handle. The door handle here has this kind of like this rubber texture, which you'll see across the different buttons on the RAV4 inside, but it's got just a really nice feel to it. I really love the texture. When I first went to close the door, I was like, ooh, that's kind of different, but nice as well. So definitely a nice little touch when it came to that. And we have your two different settings that you can save your seat position and mirrors and that sort of, memory situation for you and maybe your significant other. So that's a nice thing to have. Always welcome. And we get to the seat itself, and it's incredibly comfortable. So these are that SofTex that Toyota has, which is kind of like their leatherish. Yes, leatherish. We'll call it that texture to it. And they're nice. They're really, really comfortable. They're kind of on a sportier side as well. And I was able to immediately dial in exactly how I wanted to, you know, sit in the chair and in the seat and be positioned correctly. Couple of things with this is it has, because it's the Prime, it has that red stitching on it, which I'm always a sucker for. So if you give me black seats with red stitching, you got my approval. So that's what this has. And again, they're super comfortable. No complaints, even on a really long road trip, relative about 300 miles round trip. And it was comfortable. I didn't feel any fatigue in this. Now, the great thing about this is we have heated seats. Yeah, it's great, but when we're hitting triple digits in Texas, cool seats would be nice. But this has it. Yes, this has cooled seats. Thank you. And guess what? They actually worked. They are really, really good. So we've had them blasting at the highest setting, and it's been really comfortable. My back hasn't been extremely hot. So it's really, really good vented seats, and I love it. So definitely get this option, because you're gonna want this in hot climates. So yeah, really great seat overall. Loved it. Great features, great positioning. And when we get to the steering wheel, we get to a nice feeling steering wheel. The leather on this is really, really well done. It feels real high-end leather. And of course, we got some red stitching on this, which is, again, nice. But it's just really a really good feeling steering wheel. And, you know, just not the physical aspect, but also when you're turning it, you know, it feels really good. We get enough feedback that we need to feel what's going on with the front tires, but not too much that you're feeling literally every single bump. So that's pretty good. And the buttons on this are really, really well placed. So it's easy to really go through your menu, go through your, you know, turn on the cruise control, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we have our radio controls, which are nicely placed down here, so we can keep our hands at the wheel at all times. So it's definitely a nice ergonomically designed wheel. I love it. It's been really good. And we do have some paddle shifters. Yeah, we'll get to that next. But yeah, it has some paddle shifters. Surprisingly, they're bigger on the bottom than on the top. On the top, they're almost non-existent. So it's almost as they want you to hold the wheel a little bit lower, which I can kind of see that because the radio controls are a little bit on the lower side compared to the, you know, other cars that the controls are a little bit higher. So yeah, we have that for this wheel that, like I said, it's a really good feeling wheel. We get to the gauge cluster, and this is where it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird because we don't have a tachometer, so we can't see the RPMs of the engine, and it's just weird. I'm used to seeing RPMs. So let's break it down a little bit. On the left side, we have the power, eco, charge, meter, I guess, gauge. Meter or gauge, whatever it is, that's what you have on the left, which is kind of like your RPMs in a sense. If you're really accelerating, you're gonna see the power go up. So we have that. Then in the smack in the middle, we have a big speedometer. So we have a big speedometer, and you know, we see it's a screen. So the first part was analog, the middle part is a screen in there, and you're able to, you know, just see your information. You're able to see what the hybrid system is doing on this, the electric power on this is doing, the distribution of the power to the all-wheel drive system. You know, we have all that stuff in there. Your miles per gallon, that kind of stuff. And because this is equipped with their technology package, we do have the heads-up display, which has been nice. We do have it right now set up to basically showing you whether you're charging, whether your right foot, basically your right foot behavior, whether you're in eco mode because you're behaving, or whether you're in the power if you are using the power. So again, that's why I said it's kind of like your right foot meter. And we have the speedometer there. It also is going to give you your speed limit that you're driving in. So nice little touch. Is it needed? I don't know. I don't really think it's a really necessity, but it's nice to have. Would I have liked to not have it and save money? Yes. So that's kind of the thing, and we'll talk about those things with the RAV4. Is it's a one big package option, and it has a ton of things that if you were to kind of nitpick at and take away things, you'd probably save yourself some money. So the heads-up display would probably be one of those, because it's okay, but I don't feel the need for it in this car. Another thing that this has, which I really love, is when you flip the little mirror up here, it actually uses the backup camera to see what's behind you. Now, I did experience this in another vehicle. I believe it was the Cadillac. And at first it was a little kind of, yeah, nauseating. But the best use of this is not during the daytime, but during the nighttime. When people's headlights are really blasting, this makes a world of a difference, because you can put this on and you'll still see clearly, but it won't reflect and blind you. So that has been one of my favorite things in this as well. So in the nighttime, it's a little bit easier on my eyes. You might be able to use it with no problem during the daytime. Another thing that I do like is the fact that I love this is because if you are actually driving and you have a lot of passengers or tall passengers, it can sometimes be a little hard to see out the back. So you flip this over and you're seeing out the back. Nice little touch. So we have the nice big screen on here with the JBL system. Dear Lord, I love this JBL system. It is nice and loud. I'm such a huge fan of JBL, and this system works so well. It's nice and loud and clear. So I love that. As far as the screen goes, I was in CarPlay the majority of the time, and that's because we still have that antiquated looking system with Toyota. It's got that purple blue that just kind of reminds me of an old Windows system. Yeah, I wish we could change that color, and just to give it a more refreshing look to it, especially when you're looking at the maps. We come down here to the AC controls, and this has been probably one of my favorite things about this, because you have massive knobs here. They're really easy to use, very easy to reach for, which is nice. You're not going to confuse this knob for, you know, a different knob that's right next to it or anything. It's just big, you know, just kind of in your face, and I love it. And my favorite, it's got that rubber texture that we have following from the door handle. So it's nice and big, very easy to use, very intuitive. Dual climate zones, so you and your significant other or your passenger can really have their own controls to that. And one thing I forgot to mention as well is the volume controls also have that rubber button, that rubber feel to the volume knob and the tune knob as well, which is nice. I love that. So again, very simple AC controls, love it. And then down here a little bit more, we have your traction control button, which we'll laugh at that in a bit, but we also have the seat warmer or cooler, which or ventilation. So we have that down here. Again, very simple system, just a couple of buttons and you're setting the level of which one of how you want it. But it's been really easy to use, and love that system there. When we come down a little bit more, we have our controls for the powertrain. We have, well, first we have an electric handbrake, we have the hold, so brake hold, which I love, is one of my favorite things in modern cars. It makes driving, commuting so much easier. So basically you hold down the brake while you're at a stop sign or a stop light, and you can let go off the brake and it won't move forward. So it essentially holds the brakes for you. And then we have your basically your EV and HV settings. We'll get to that in a little bit. And we also have the trail button. It's just going to make the drivetrain a lot more aggressive when it senses loose traction. Then we have the shifter, again, nice little leather wrapped shifter, and with the red stitching. We have the cup holders. Cup holders are nice. They're big and comfortable. They really hold, you know, your items in there with no complaints. No issues there. So we have nice 2 big cup holders. Then we have the armrest, which has a good amount of storage, and you also have 2 USB ports in here as well, which is nice to charge additional devices if you're in the front. And And again, it's just an armrest that goes up, nice and comfortable, really good position for this. We get to the back, and that's where this little guy really excels as well as a people hauler. It's fairly comfortable back there. It's comfortable back there. You can see my kid's seat. So my kid's 6 years old. He has his kid's seat back there, and it was easy to install, no hassles. Very comfortable, and yeah, he loved it. He had enough space in the back, and he wasn't kicking the front seat, so very good space in the back. We get to the way back, and in the trunk area, or the cargo, or the hatch area, we have a lot of space. I was surprised. This little thing really can hold a good amount of groceries and whatever you want to throw it, sports gear, because this is, you're going to take the kids and you're going to need the space for hauling all their sports equipment. It works really, really well. It has a lot of space, and it has that nice little cover in the back for safety and security to keep eyes out of your stuff, basically. So nice little thing there. Let's talk performance. Yes, in a RAV4. So we do have a 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder engine under the hood, but it is with a plug-in hybrid power source. So that makes it combined. You have a combined 302 horsepower. That's insane. That's insane to have in an SUV like this. Yeah. And guess what? You really feel the performance in this. Now, let's talk about those buttons that I mentioned earlier with the EV and HV, which is hybrid vehicle, electric vehicle modes, basically. So we have the auto EV, HV, and when you press that, the car itself is going to determine when is the best time to use the hybrid system of both the battery and the gas powered engine, and when it's going to use the EV setting, which is going to be the pure battery setting. That has been great, and that's basically what I've been in 99% of the time, till I found out how to actually use this, because it was a little confusing, because the next button it has is HV, EV, and it has kind of an arrow going from one to the other, and that's when you can manually choose the setting for it. Now, the reason I say that's a little confusing is because we do have a button that says charge hold, and from the previous hybrid that I've driven, I did have a similar button that says charge hold, and that meant hold on to the charge. Don't use the charge. What that means is if you actually have to hold down the button, and that will actually charge or put you in charge mode. So it's not that it's going to hold the charge, you have to actually hold the button to put it in charge mode. And what that's going to do is it's going to use the gas engine to charge your battery up. And it's unfortunate that I found that out almost towards the end of our drive with this RAV4. But I have been charging it, and we've been driving, and we've pretty much filled it up. And granted, our gas mileage itself hasn't been the best, but once I switch into hybrid, it's definitely going to make a huge difference. So yeah, that's what that means. And we have the eco, normal, and sport modes in this, which the eco mode, I can tell you, is very useful. It will behave, or help you behave, but when you really gun it and need to, for passing power, it will switch over correctly and not just hold you kind of hold you hostage to eco, and it lets you get up and going. Now I've set up so we can see the energy monitor in this. Couple of things. There is a lot going on with this vehicle, and the crazy thing is, with it doing so much, you don't notice a single thing. And that's what makes this vehicle so good, is that it's doing its thing and you're just enjoying the vehicle. You're enjoying the gas mileage savings and let it do its thing, and it's not intrusive. It's not something when it kicks on the gas powered engine, you don't feel it. There's no switch. Everything is incredibly smooth with the drivetrain, which is nice. So with this, it took me a while to kind of understand what's going on, but I'll explain to you really quickly. So when you see green, that means charging, and there's different ways. No need for brake. And there's different ways you can charge the battery in this. So obviously you have the plug-in, so you can plug that in and charge your battery at home or at a charging station. And then we also have the braking. So you can see right now when I'm braking, it will show the green arrows coming from the tires and going into the battery. Now when I accelerate and I'm in electric mode right now, it is going to go yellow, meaning it's getting the battery power and distributing it to the wheels. So yellow is battery power to go to the wheels or using battery power. Green is going to be charging, and we can charge it again with the engine as well when we put it in that charge mode. You'll see red going into the actual electric motor, which then charges the battery. But right now, again, we have an electric mode, but I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to sport because this does have a sport mode. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it just makes the throttle more responsive, but you can see the moment I hit the gas, it will turn the red on, and that red is indicating, again, you're using the gas power. But let me tell you, this thing really goes. It really goes, but my biggest concern with this is the stopping. I think it goes more than it stops, which is scary. So if you're a heavy-footed person, be careful with this, because I think it out speeds the brakes, or it outperforms the brakes a little bit in spirited settings. If you're in everyday normal driving thing in situations, you're fine. But the reason the brakes kind of scare me a little bit on this is there's a lot of nosedive. So there is a lot of nosedive with this, and I feel like the front suspension is a little on the soft side for the fronts. So yeah, that would probably be my only kind of concern with this. But the suspension on its own, and just kind of everyday use, and if you're just basically using it for regular driving, potholes, this thing loves them. You're not going to have any issues with how it absorbs that. It feels very comfortable ride, highway, city, bad streets. It just was really, really impressive on how the suspension was set up. Except again, when you were having to do heavy braking because you've accelerated really fast with it. But when we get back to the performance, and what was crazy is when we did our drive, I didn't know about the charge mode, and I was just using the auto mode, and my battery wasn't charged all the way. It was just kind of using like the remnants of when I was braking. With that being said, this was funny because we did about 33 miles to the gallon, 34 miles to the gallon. Yeah, I think it was about 33 miles to the gallon when we were on the highway. Once we got off the highway and we were going on city streets, I actually gained miles per gallon. That's insane for me to go into the city and actually city streets and actually gain mileage. So my average ended up going up to 35 miles to the gallon, like 35.3, I think, which is really crazy because I was on the highway for about 3 hours and on the city streets for like 30 minutes. It's insane. So unfortunately, I couldn't get 100% real world kind of setting, miles to the gallon, but that was my scenario, or the best real world scenario, because again, I had to figure this out, and I tried reading the manual for this because I thought, okay, how am I gonna get this going? But it was a little confusing till again, I was just pushing the buttons. And that's how I learned how to really get the most out of this. Now, who's this for? I want to say a lot of people. And that's why the RAV4 is such a high selling vehicle. It's insane how many RAV4s we saw on the street this week. It's just been insane. There is a lot of them out there. And the reason why is because they're good. They are fairly small, you know, but inside they're massive. They feel really big, comfortable. You know, everything just works well with this. And with this being the Prime, unfortunately, at the moment of this filming, it's extremely limited, and that's if there are any available. So this is probably a really rare, as weird as it sounds, being one of the high selling vehicles, this is one of the rarest RAV4s at this moment because there are some shortages with supply for the batteries. With that being said, I hope things get better because this vehicle really is spectacular and needs to be in the hands and garages of many people. So definitely, and that's, we're talking about the Prime trim. So yeah, so with that being said, again, this has a lot of check marks it checks off for a lot of people. Tons of space, the fuel economy is amazing, and you have that plug-in option as well in case you want to, get even more mileage out of a battery charge and not have to wait for the hybrid system to actually go ahead and charge the battery. But if you do want the hybrid system to charge the battery or the gas-powered engine, you can. So yeah, this is for a lot of people. But then it comes to the point of price. This starts at $41,000. The Prime does. It's a lot. It's a fairly large amount of money. With the way that this is optioned out, we are dealing with $49,000. So virtually $50,000 for a small SUV with a hybrid system, a plug-in hybrid system. Is it worth it? Yeah, that's a tough one. I would have to consider, because then you start getting into 4Runner numbers, and that's bigger, but is that necessarily better? It's tough because it's great ruggedness to it, but the gas mileage is nowhere near this. But it's a lot of fun. But then you have this, and this has also been a lot of fun. It's just tough. It's really tough to make that decision because it is a lot of money, but you do get a lot for it. Yeah, I'll make a decision and I'll say, yes, it is worth the money because this has been just that good. I think it's worth the money, and the value these things keep is insane. It's incredible how how much of a value you get for not just what you get, but also, it keeps its value. It really does. It's insane how much these things cost, even in the used market. So the fact that you have that, and yeah, the scarcity of the Prime, I think would definitely propel this to almost making a profit, I want to say. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed my review. I've had a blast in this little thing. It's been a lot of fun. And the really big fun has been, how many miles to the gallon I've gotten to this. And I know the saying always goes miles per gallon, but yeah, in this case, this takes it in a different way. It's almost a fun little game with this and seeing how much you can get out of it. So again, I hope you've enjoyed the review, and remember to find the right gear. See ya.